This is the Furlough Podcast, brought to you by All American Ford in Aniana, Alabama. Stop by and see John Makovica and his team today.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Furlough Podcast. We have via Zoom today, we have Ian Blunt. He is the creator, the procurer of Proudly Positive newsletter. Ian is a motivational speaker and a success coach, which not quite a career coach, but a success coach on doing the best things. Welcome aboard, Ian. Glad you called in.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be joining you all the way from not so sunny England at the moment.
Yeah, there's people don't realize that I've had actually pretty good success with a few people from the UK. It's a 13-hour time difference, which is pretty weird. You know, when trying to line up everybody's schedule, but I find the UK is a pretty good audience for me for some reason. Maybe it's my accent.
I was going to say it has to be that. It's the Bama accent, you know, just so smooth, you know, just like it's super American. It's really cool. I dig it. It's nice.
I appreciate it, man. So tell us more about, you reached out to me and I became part of your newsletter. Let's talk about it, and let's, as our beginning, let's figure out what the newsletter's about and what you're trying to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you said, the newsletter is called Proudly Positive, and the reason I kind of came up with that name is because I really I want to try to start a movement or a grouping of people that are, one, positive, but two, they're actually proud of that, which sounds a bit strange, but when it comes to a lot of the coaching work that I do and working with a lot of clients, when people have success and when they have a breakthrough, they don't really get, you know, super excited about it. You know what I mean? They still think like that there's still so much work to be done, you know? So I kind of tell them, listen, you need to stop, celebrate, and then continue with the rest, you know? So I just basically want people to be, you know, able to, one, be positive, but two, then be kind of proud about it, almost wear a badge of honor and say, yeah, like I am a positive person, and that's my vibe, you know, that's the wavelength that I'm on. So yeah, so I created the newsletter to kind of just try and help people understand that life's not, you know, all negativity and that kind of stuff. You know, I don't really watch the news very often because it's all just negative. So,
oh my goodness, yeah, that's why we you know, this show we try our very best to stay away from politics and religion, because that's the two things that usually make people mad. But the only thing we creep into religion, we do a lot of paranormal stuff, so that kind of creeps into religion a little bit. But but you're right. And what's funny though is the proud part of it is I find I do competitive sports and different things of that nature, a lot of combat sports, and done it all my life. But what I find out is no matter how well you do find people that either they're scared to celebrate the successes, because I had one friend of mine, he said it was almost like a jinx to him. He says if he ever felt like if he ever let up on anything he was doing to celebrate it, even after the event per se is over, that he wouldn't do as well down the road. So I think a lot of people get that mindset where they're just driving, but you got to enjoy it, or you know, at some point, or you just not, you know, what's it all for?
Exactly. I know you're 100% correct, but also it's just kind of strange. We, as people, we've become, and I don't want this to necessarily slide into a whole social media discussion as such, but, you know, with things like social, with the very instant nature of our lives, like we can order something and it arrives on the doorstep within like a day, you know, and then you can, if you want a movie, you can just order it right now and it's on your phone and you can watch the movie. And so we're in quite a sort of what I call an instant age, where if you want something, it's pretty instant, like you can get hold of it quite quickly. And that kind of causes problems on a sort of a psychological level, because something will happen, but we'll feel, well, this is instant, it's done now, like what's the next thing, you know, because we're so used to this Rolodex of things, like, oh, I've watched that movie, I'm going to watch the next. And I think that has a result in terms of positivity. Like you said, when you experience something good, but then you just move on real quick because you're like, well, there's something next, you know? Right. And it's quite sad, really. And that's kind of why the newsletter kind of came about, because I just want people to be like, yeah, I'm positive. And there was another spin on it, in that I went through a pretty challenging time myself, a couple of years back before I studied coaching, before I started, coaching and helping people. And a lot of people do. I mean, it's just the way of life. I mean, we've all got challenges or had challenges, or we're going to have challenges. And, I just wish at that time I had something like a newsletter that would just remind me that life's actually not that bad.
Absolutely.
So the second side of it is like, it's a lifeline to help people that are currently feeling negative or depressed or suffering with anxiety, that kind of stuff. It's like, I read this because it's quite, uplifting, and it lets you know that everyone's got their own stuff, so that's the second side to it.
Do you find when you're coaching people that they are scared of success? And I ask that to say, I'll use myself for example, I feel like sometimes, or I have over the years, I've gotten much better about it, but especially in my early days, I felt like anytime something good happened, something negative followed it. And so, I have myself and other friends have talked about it in the past. It's like some people are scared of success because they're afraid that they have to pay a price for that accomplishment.
Yeah, I know
Sometimes
what you
people will
mean.
get a
Yeah.
promotion, or we'll say they'll buy something. So we got a person that's worked, they worked, and they finally at the point where they're like, well, I'm gonna get this for myself, whether it be a car, a motorcycle, a widget, whatever it is. But they're scared to death after that because they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna probably get fired next week because I've
Yeah.
allowed myself to take on this source of,
Yeah.
of happiness. Do you find people that get into that conversation with you?
Not so much. I mean, I know what you're talking about, and there's something cool we can talk about in a sec, which I find very interesting, which is called imposter syndrome. I'm sure you've come across the term, and if not, we can chat about it. It's very, really interesting. But in terms of the success with my clients, it's not necessarily that they're worried something bad's going to happen. It's that they don't believe it's real, if that makes sense. So they'll have a breakthrough, but they won't really think it's real because they've maybe had 10 years of bad stuff, and now they've had like 1 week of good. So it's still really lopsided. And that's the thing that I tell people is that success is, it's a habit. It's a habitual thing. So, if you've had one good week, you're not going to feel like you're a success because you've had 10 years of, negativity, or 10 years of a bad job, or 10 years of a bad relationship, or whatever it is,
Right.
So it's more that they have the success, but they don't believe it's real.
I get that. I can see what that would be in relationships, especially if you've had bad relationships over the year, you got out of it, and now you met somebody new and everything is going good, even for more than a week, just for a while, you're still you don't recognize that it is a good thing.
Yeah, and it is tough because it's almost foreign to you. Do you know what I mean? It's the same if you're someone listening to the show, and there's a lot of people out there have. One of my close friends in Texas actually was suffering from body dysmorphia, where you basically just not happy with your body at all. Like, you look at yourself and you're super critical about everything to do with your body and stuff. And with people that have image issues, and I don't know, I'm sure one or two of your friends are like this. Like, have you ever met someone that whenever you give them the compliment, they just shoot the compliment down?
My wife.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Right. So just just through the other room. Right.
Yeah.
But the thing with that is, like, when someone's not willing to accept the compliment, it's because something in their brain says, well, that's because it's not real.
Right.
It's like, it's a lie, or what this person's saying isn't true because they don't believe it. And so that is an interesting side of what I do as well, because I'll say to clients, how do you think the result, or what do you think of the result based on whatever it is that they're trying to do? And they'll say like, it was okay. But in my eyes, it's actually like, that's a great job. Like, you've done an amazing job.
Right.
So I'm there as a motivator, but I'm also like very truthful and very honest with my clients. And you just say, listen, like, what do you think your success was like? And they say, man, it was okay. And so, well, why do you think it was, okay? Because you have to learn to love yourself, or learn to appreciate yourself, or learn to recognize your success, or, pat yourself on the back and say, I actually did a really good job that day, or that thing, or whatever,
Well, you got to figure out, you got to figure out your self-worth, you got to know what you're worth, and appreciate what you bring to the table for yourself, for others, and whatnot. Correct.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it all starts with the self. It's really interesting because it's going to sound strange. You're probably going to be like, what? This guy's crazy. But like it's quite easy to find success because you get to define success,
Yes,
like as
absolutely.
an individual. Like you get to choose. So if you do something and I don't think it's good enough, that doesn't matter because you get to decide. But the problem is because we're social creatures and we all live in a a web and a universe where we coexist with each other, we let other people have opinions and give us advice or say whether it was good enough. And it all starts when you're when you're a kid and you've got parents. If something's not good enough, you feel like you've got to then achieve more, and then we just carry that through our whole lives. But you have to flip the switch and realize, well, hold on, I am in charge of my life, so I get to decide whether I was good, bad, or whether I'm happy with the result. Or, there's some people out there who've got absolutely nothing. They're poor or they are, not educated or whatever, but they're super happy just because they're okay with themselves.
No, absolutely. You got to be, you got to understand that you're number one. And as long as you're not being detrimental to anybody else, that is, what you feel is what you feel. And it's funny that you mentioned that we listen to other people, and I tell people this all the time. The world is full of people that only want you to rise so far. People
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to rise above them. They'll support you and they'll be, they'll say things, but if they ever feel like you're going to pass them not yours, but their race of life,
Yeah.
then they start giving you that negative energy. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very easy to fall on the negative energy than it is to positive energy.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me how many, as a social unit, we don't support each other, like what you're doing with this newsletter. This
Mm.
newsletter, when you first sent it to me, I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. But I'm not even going to lie. My first thought was, okay, what's the catch? Because,
Mm.
we're all geared for
Skeptical
what's the
creatures.
catch?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the
Yeah.
catch of this? But, and it boils down to because people don't truly support each other.
Yeah.
You'll get your one or two true friends or whatever like that. But as a society, we really don't support each other.
Yeah.
Negative energy is so much easier. It's so much easier to be down in the dumps and gloom to whereas if
Yeah.
you get up every day. I drive my wife crazy on this one thing. I get up and and she's like, how are you? She's not a morning person. So she goes, you talk more than any person I know in the morning. I said, well, I'm just happy to be alive. I wake up and I'm like, pow, I made it another
Yeah.
night. And that just drives her nut. I've been telling her that for years.
Yeah, I'm sure. And but I mean, that's cool that that you guys can still sort of joke about it and just kind of just have a bit of a laugh. And you're not going to change who you are just because. And it's kind of it's one of those things like you'll dig someone in the ribs a little bit and kind of give them a bit of stick about stuff, but you actually really enjoy that part of who they are. You know
Oh,
what I
I
mean?
think so.
She
I think
truly
so.
loves that side of you. She just likes giving you a bit of a poke now and then.
Oh, I think so. But again, she's probably one of the most supportive people I've ever met for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
think that you got to surround yourself with people like that. I think if you can and I have a son, I tell him the same thing. I says, you show me your friends and I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So if you're around a bunch of doom and gloom, everybody's against you or whatever, that's who you are.
Mm.
If you're with people that have drive, that have some sort of achievement syndrome where they want to achieve something, doesn't matter what it is, then that's who you're going to be.
Yeah.
And that's obviously the better place, in my opinion, to be, is to be around people, that want to do and feel better. And that's why I like your newsletter. I think that
Mm.
it's something that instead of the ticker take of negative on mainstream media,
Yeah.
I think that as a collective, a newsletter coming out is such a positive thing because we check emails all the time, right? At least I
Yeah.
do. Professionally, I do. I check my email all the time before I get my day started,
Mm.
and things like proudly positive newsletter will. That's how your day starts. You know what I'm saying? For
Yeah.
me, if I hit
Yeah.
that in the morning and I read something positive, well, now I'm starting my day positive. And
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good goal to set out for you and set out for other people.
Yeah, and there's something I tell a lot of people in general, not just clients, just in general discussions, and when I'm chatting to friends or people that I meet and stuff. I say it's really an interesting thing when it comes to success, because if you're not willing to or able to, and it's not to say it's a good or a bad thing, but if you're not willing to or able to celebrate someone else's success authentically and genuinely be happy for that person succeeding, then you're not ready for success yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something that I just think that's huge when it comes to this kind of stuff, because we all want success for ourselves, but we're not willing to be happy with we're not willing to be happy for somebody else.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people that if someone's doing really well at school or at work, whatever, they'll like down talk them and be like, oh, look at this guy, he's so this, or oh, look, she thinks she's so whatever because she's so successful, whatever. Mm-hmm. But when people are in that mode, they're not even close to being able to find success for themselves, because they're still looking at a me versus you.
Right.
And I tell this to a lot of people, it's not me versus you, it's me who I am now versus me who I want to be. That's the competition.
Well, how do you typically, obviously I don't want to give away your stuff because I want people to contact you. Let's do that real quick before we get too deep in, is how somebody can contact you to utilize your services as far as, a success coach or a motivational situation.
Yeah. So, I have a website that I set up and I'm pretty proud of, actually. I'm saying the things I'm proud of.
Absolutely.
But so it's called, the website's lifechangeguide.com. And that's like my professional sort of site for my coaching services and that. And then the other thing is, if anyone's on Twitter, just follow, at Ian W. Blunt. And you can put that up on as a link or whatever. I don't know. But I'm actually going to be starting something pretty soon, which I'm excited about. So maybe, a bunch of people start following on Twitter. It's going to be a Twitter campaign, but I'm pretty excited about it, actually. It's called, so two things. First off, like you said, there's no catch to the newsletter. The newsletter is 100% free, and it will remain free for the rest of my days. I don't plan to monetize that at all, and I don't sell stuff through there. I don't have advertising on there. It's just literally purely this is positive. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. And then the other thing that I'm going to start quite soon, which I'm excited about, is going to be through Twitter and on Twitter. It's going to be called Free Advice Fridays. Okay. So basically, because I know sometimes people don't want to go see a coach, or they can be this kind of bit skeptical, like, what does a coach do? Or, I don't have money to pay for a coach, or whatever it is, So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say again.
It gives them a taste of what you do.
Well, not only that, it's also, for me, I see it as, again, almost like a community service kind of thing. And that what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell people that they can send me any questions that they have.
Oh, okay.
And I'll do my best. Obviously, I can't get back to every single person right away. But basically, every Friday, I'm going to put out a sort of 2 to 3 minute video on Twitter, giving the free advice to whatever their situation or their question is, And that's something that I'm pretty excited about, because, again, it's just free advice, and if it helps someone make their life better, then that's cool. Like, it's good,
How do you normally do your coaching? Do you typically do like we're doing today through video conferencing, or if somebody's local, you meet them locally, or?
Yeah, most of it's through stuff like Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp calls, that kind of stuff. When I did coaching myself, I had a coach. I actually had like for about like a month and a half, maybe 2 months. I had a coach that was based in the States, and so we just had like WhatsApp calls all the time, and so it's pretty standard. But if someone's in London, I have a client that I'm meeting up with next week in the city. So it's, you don't have to fly all this way to meet me, put it that way.
Sure. I just want to let people know, because a lot of people go, how do I even get in touch with this? This is going to be the power of Zoom, Skype, and other things, WhatsApp and whatnot. It just really makes your reach a lot easier when you can talk to people from a further distance. I didn't want people to be discouraged because you're in the UK and they may be in the States that they can't reach out to you.
Yeah, and it's also whatever's comfortable for the person. I mean, some people don't want to do video because that's part of their, problem, or they have some kind of thing, or maybe some people want to do, just a call or whatever. I mean, you know what I mean? I just do whatever's best for the person. Like it's not up to me to really decide. It's like if someone says, well, hey, can I get coaching over email? I'll do that. It's just a lot more difficult and it's a lot less impactful, but I mean, I'll do it, whatever makes someone feel comfortable, because if you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to get breakthroughs and see the results that you want. So it's really not about that. It's about the fact that you actually are taking steps to feel better, get better, reduce anxiety, find more success, or whatever it is,
Right. What is, what do you, going back to the coaching itself, is what are the kind of things that you think that you've seen the most, maybe had the most success with?
It's tough because each case is or each person's story is different, I guess. But the one thing I would say, which it's going to sound quite sort of simple to say it, but it's really, it's really sort of true, and I've seen it every time, is it's unbelievable how quickly people start to see success. Now, I'm not saying how quickly they achieve their dream goal or living their dream life, because that is a journey. That's not that's not a thing. It's a journey. But with just a few small tweaks, I mean, within a couple days, 1-2 weeks or whatever it is, the clients I work with are already seeing so much, so not necessarily seeing results, but they're viewing life through such a more optimistic lens. Yeah. But they're actually thinking, wow, I feel better. I can sort of see how this is going to work out. You know what I mean? And it's really quite quick. It's not something that you have to, like a language where you have to learn for months and months or a year, and then you only get to, speak the language. It's quite easy to shift.
I find that talking to people, and that's one of the things, maybe this is my therapy, if you will, or my success coaching. I've been doing this for a year and a half or whatever, wanted to do it way, way back when. And I finally pulled the trigger and did it. And I feel like I get pretty much satisfaction, if you will, and this isn't about making money or different things, but I get to meet different people such as yourself. I met some great people doing this. And I think,
you must have some cool stories, along the way.
I have some great stories, I encourage everybody to listen, and anybody that's listening to you, but listen to this because of you, make sure that you check out some of these previous episodes. And as far as success goes, is to remind people what you're saying is you can go back to episode 1, right? Yeah. And listen to that. And then just, even if you skip through the episodes up to where we are today, the level of professionalism, the level of quality has gained. And I can go back and I can see that. And I think it's important to not only set milestones for what you're doing, but also mark it down so you can look back and see at those milestones. And I encourage the people that talk to you is like, okay, what's my problem? And then, down the road, okay, however long it is, set small steps and say, okay, well, that's gotten better. Now this has gotten better. Now this has gotten better. And that's what I do with this show. That's why I wanted to have you on, because I think it's important for people to have people to talk to like yourself. And I think it's a good service.
Yeah, and there's so many studies that have been done that have proved, the research shows that helping other people is an inherent positivity boost in itself. So when I was living in Texas for a while, I was living in Austin, which was awesome. Loved it. It was UT town. Everyone was football crazy, and it was cool. But like when I was there, I wasn't allowed to work because I was just a tourist and stuff. But I was helping out at like 2 different charities and getting involved in the community and stuff. And it's the strangest thing, because you think like, oh, in order to help myself, I need to help myself, and I just forget about everyone else for a sec. But it's actually the opposite. Like if you're listening to this right now and you're feeling a bit down, or you're feeling like anxiety, depression, any of these kind of things, like if you get out in the community and start making a difference in someone else's life, you're going to see a dramatic shift in your own energy. Because like you said earlier, it's all about self-worth, right? And when you become worthy to someone else because you're helping them, you're giving them your time, your energy, your effort, whatever it is, you increase your self-worth. And I really encourage anyone listening, whether you're struggling or not, to do something in your community, make some kind of difference. And it could be whatever you want. It could be animals, peoples, plants, picking up litter, do whatever you need to do, but just contribute some. And I just finished reading an interesting book that speaks about three pillars to being happy. And one of them is a sense of giving or contributing. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big one,
Oh, absolutely. And the only thing I would add, that you kind of said it in there, but I want to highlight it, is pay attention. And this is me talking to everybody else. Is if people that listen to this, is pay attention to the people around you and recognize if they are helping you, give back a little bit to them. And it's mm-hmm. They're not looking for that, but I think it'll make you feel even better if you can reward somebody that's helping you, whether you realize it or not. It could be your friend, it could be a parent, just there's something that lifts that weight off your shoulders if you look around and say, this person has really done a lot. And it may be something as simple as helping you do laundry or making you do grass work, lawn care, whatever it is that they're doing for you, or putting in a good word for you for a new job. Do something back. It doesn't have to be equal or more. It's not a contest, but I think that just if you turn around and you do a little bit back, like you were saying, even in the community sense, I think that it'll make you feel real good.
And and also this is something that if for your listeners, and I know you are, but for anyone who's listening, that if you're a parent as well, this is something that's super important to instill in your family, but also you do it together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you say, hey, as a family or as a father, son, or whatever, like, hey, I'm going to go out and do this thing and I want you to come with me. Do you know what I mean? Because then it's a bonding experience for you and that family member, that friend, whatever. But then you both get the sort of the good feeling of helping. And it's kind of, that's when that positivity spreads, the whole proudly positive kind of idea starts to catch on, do you remember that old movie, Pay It Forward?
Yes, absolutely.
Like it's a great film, but it's also just a great concept, So mm-hmm. I'm actually in the process of finishing up now. I'm busy editing. It's on my desk here, a book that I'm hoping to release later this year, which is a self-help book. And we don't have to talk about that all too much now necessarily.
We'll have to come back then when you're ready to kick that off. We'll have to come back.
Yeah, so it's I'm really excited about it, but it's all like a self-help book in a way, but it's based on a real guy's life that I met in Texas. I met a guy who was homeless for 7 years, and basically it's his life story and then how he turned it all around, and that.
Wow.
And then the end of the book as well, if he can turn it around, because he was, homeless, addicted to drugs. I don't want to give away too much of the story, but got a girl pregnant on the streets. So she had the baby, and then just pieced out, said, like, I don't want to be a parent, and just left. Wow. And he had literally used drugs the night before, standing in the hospital, and he's like freaking out now because there's this kid in the world. So it's quite hectic. It's quite an interesting story. I just want the world to see that he turned all of that stuff around. So trust me, if he can do it, you can do it, kind of thing,
Well, don't you think we all have a wake up call? Don't you think we all have a wake up call?
Oh, yeah, exactly. But what I was mentioning is, just to get back on track there, is that in the book, I mentioned 2 really cool ideas that I came across. There's a bunch of coffee shops in London or in the UK. They've signed up for a service. I can't remember what it's called now, but basically the way it works is when you go in, you buy a cup of coffee, but you pay for 2 cups of coffee. And mm-hmm. then someone who can't afford the coffee can just come in and get a cup of coffee, kind of thing,
Yeah.
And then the other one was the drive-through thing in America. One of my friends was just outside Pittsburgh, and he was working for a fast food chain. And he said every now and then someone would pull up to the window and they would buy their food, but they'd pay for the car behind them as well.
Yeah, we've seen some of that. Absolutely.
Which would be like, to me, that's the pay it forward. I know it's a small thing, but it's just like, don't you think that's going to change someone's day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I know it's just like a free meal or whatever, but it's going to change your day. You're going to be like, wow, like good people still exist.
Oh, for sure. And I think, a thing that a lot of people, especially in the States, are having, I don't know how it is in London and the UK, is a lot of people have become so, what's what I'm looking for, so rough around the edges about interaction with people because of things, because of crime, because of being whatever, especially ladies. A lot of big thing going on in the States right now about sex trafficking. It's kind of come to the point where women are being attacked and kidnapped or whatever. It's kind of a big story right now. So what happens is now people won't make eye contact with each other. And I think you almost can't even just smile at somebody anymore without them thinking, oh my God, what's this
creep,
cat up to? Yeah, it's creep. It's like you can't smile at anybody. And I think that is I wish we could figure out a way to turn that around where you could, smile at somebody, wave at them, whatever, when you're going by. You don't have to communicate with them as far as engage in conversation, but it's just, where it's just, I think it's a decay to society around the world is when you just have to, when you're walking and somebody looks you in the eye and you kind of, look away because of whatever your fear is. And I wish we could get past that and get back to the way it used to be.
Well, that's the irony of social media, in that like it's actually not that social. It's actually quite anti-social. Like, yes, you can interact, which is socialization, but that's fake socialization, because by definition, socialization would be interacting with other people. So then it fits the definition, but that's not real socialization. So sitting in a room, or me and you having this talk right now, like we can see each other and we can talk, that's social interaction. Right. So it's just ironic that they call it social media, because I could just go on now and put a different photo of a different person, pretend to be somebody. And like you said, it creates this huge distrust in the world. Like, what do you believe? Sure. Like you said, the newsletter came and landed in your inbox, and at first you think, well, what's the catch? Like, there's probably going to be something at the end that says, buy this product now, or whatever, like there's something. And that's going back to the newsletter. Like, that's the kind of idea, is I want to try to have something that's completely not, like, no BS. It's just, it is what it is. And the fact that you're skeptical is just proving my point even further. It's like, it is genuinely sort of there. It's free. That's life. And then, I'm trying to kind of break that idea of, like, there's a catch to everything in the world,
Well, let's see. Let me pull up my deal here. Where can people sign up for this newsletter?
Yeah, so at the on my website itself, so at lifechangeguide.com, at the very bottom it just says sign up for the newsletter, and you just pop in your email address there, and it basically signs you up. And it comes out on the last Friday of every month. Okay. And then I try and theme them if I can. Like sort of in December, I did like one on the holiday season. Yesterday or 2 days ago was January. So the February one's going to talk about love, because it's obviously Valentine's Day in February. So we're gonna talk a little about love, but yeah, so it's if you want to get on there or sign up, then just go onto the website. Or someone can just email me as well. It's just info@lifechangeguide.com. But basically just email me and say, hey, heard you've got this newsletter, can you add me to the list? And then that's basically it. And at any point in time, you can just opt out. Like I say, it is what it is.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to get on it. I think everybody should have that coming into their inboxes, more positive things that we can do. And I definitely think they should follow you on Twitter. I got to do a better job at Twitter. I'm horrible at Twitter.
Yeah. So many things these days. You can't keep up, man, because now you have to have Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, Snapchat, and I don't even know. Yeah, TikTok. I mean, it's tut many, man. Can't we just talk anymore?
I know it's tough. Once I rebooted my studio, now I'm trying to do all my marketing to get people to follow and stuff like that. And it's really tough to figure out what's the best platform that doesn't take up all your time, but you get your message across. And, it is what it is. But I think this newsletter is fantastic. And I think that it's simple, and everybody has email. Check your email. I think everybody should sign up.
And it's also, what's cool in there, just to sort of set a picture, because most people don't know, is that the way that the newsletter is structured is that there's a theme, like I said, for every issue, but then there's what I call the main article, which is like a discussion piece. So the one I just sent out was about life direction, like how do you know your life's going in the direction that you want. But then I'll also have like a quote, like a nice like picture with like a quote that I obviously it's quotes from myself, like when I write and talk and stuff. But then there's also a book recommendation as well. Like, I've read a lot of books that have helped me change my life, and I either put those out, or if any of your listeners have written a book that is positive or about life or about a challenge that you've overcome and you want to be featured in the newsletter, like I feature a book in there, and then obviously a podcast. So this episode will feature in any podcast out there. Anyone that's basically doing positive stuff, like let's collaborate kind of thing is the way it's going. You know what I mean? So you're doing really positive stuff with your podcast, and you're just kind of discussing life and letting people work out things for themselves. You're not going out with like an agenda. Like you're not gonna, I'm trying to convince people that this is right and that is wrong. You're just saying, let's just talk about how cool life is for a second.
Oh man, some crazy
and how
things
strange human beings are.
Yeah, man, there's some crazy things that go on, in this world.
Which is so cool. Like it makes life so much more fun, like it's great to know that there's, like you said, ghost catchers, and then there's people that are running retreats, and then there's like, supermodels and I don't know, car makers. It's just life is fascinating, and people are just so
hunters.
Cool. Yeah, I saw the t-shirt.
Bigfoot, they walk around out in the woods. I think a lot of dope smoking's going on, but
especially out in Alaska. I spent some time out in Alaska. And I said to a guy in a store there, I was like, hey, I mean, it gets pretty cold in winter, right? He's like, yeah. So I was like, well, what do you guys do for fun? And he's like, yeah, we just, smoke weed and play PlayStation. I was like, okay.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pretty easy life. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Well, you can't go outside. You got to do something, right?
Yeah, true.
You either make a lot of babies or get really good at video games.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, Ian, I think this has been a great show, man. I think that everybody should definitely go and sign up for lifechangeguide.com. Go on Twitter at IanWBlunt, and I think everybody should be a part of this positive podcast, proudly positive newsletter. I always think podcast in my head.
No, it eventually, actually, the idea is once I've got it up and running, probably a year of the newsletter, I probably will then at some point launch the Proudly Positive podcast, and then
excellent.
Interview people about their positive lives and that kind of stuff. So that's the long-term goal. But real quick, before we kind of finish up, I'm kind of keen to do an experiment. Not an experiment, that makes it sound much more clinical, but here's the thing, and here's something I want your listeners to try do as well, right?
Okay.
So if I said to you now, right, and this might be easy for you in a way because you've got a sort of down-to-earth guy, you've got, you know what you're kind of doing and you in life, and it seems quite like you've got a cool sort of projection at the moment, which is good. But if I said to you, if I was like, hey, Chris, what is something that you are proudly positive about? What would you say?
If I was say something, I would say I'm proudly positive.
Not something you're proud of, but something that you're proudly positive about, or something that like makes you feel like more optimistic and proud, but it's also positive. What would you say?
If it's something I do, I would say it's my ability to teach jiu-jitsu.
Oh, cool.
So I teach Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I teach kickboxing, Thai boxing, and I always get a positive feedback, and I typically, anytime somebody leaves me, especially in a private session, not so much a group session, but private session, I always seem to get a really good positive feedback from them. And to me, that's one of the things I feel like I give back. And so it boosts my morale to continue to do it. I've been doing it for most of my adult life. And so it's one of those things that'd be my proudly positive moments.
Well, that's good. But so here's the second part of the question. Second part of it. You're almost out. It's so cool that you've got a thing. And anyone who's listening, if you don't have a thing, and by that I mean something that makes you smile, that is not relationship, work, family, like none of that stuff. If you don't have a thing that makes you smile and makes you happy outside of all of that, I can just tell you from my experience, it's going to be very, very hard to live an optimistic life, because it needs to be something that you've decided for yourself that's positive. So like you say, you've got your jiu-jitsu, or some people like cooking, or some people like painting, or any kind of, just everyone, you need a thing. That's like a little takeaway from today. But so here's the second part of the question, or the second part of the discussion on that is, when last did you tell someone, other than with me now, when last did you tell someone that you were proud of that part of your life? Like when?
I would say it was Thursday of last week.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I
That's like
share
pretty
I sh-
recent.
I shared that with I trained with a guy that I hadn't trained with in a very, very long time. And his remarks on my abilities, that because he trains as well. We trained together for many, many years ago, and then
Yeah.
and we haven't seen each other in probably pushing 10 years or so. And we worked out together, did some jujitsu together, and he was very impressed at how good I've gotten over the
Yeah.
years. And so, of course, I shared that with my wife because that's my confidant. That's who I
Yeah.
share things with. So I would say Thursday would be somewhere around that time. So
Okay. Well,
I'm
that's
doing
good.
all
I'm
right.
glad. Yeah, you're doing real good, man. Like you're on that positive wavelength, right? But you also wake up positive every morning as well. So you've kind of got that sort of little kickstart to the day, like you said, you know?
Yeah, I want everybody to be like me.
Yeah.
And we all have things that get us down, you know, and but you know, like me, when I get upset, I'll be upset if the people leave me alone for a little about an hour. I usually
Mhm.
get over it within an hour. I usually come
Yeah.
because that's my time that I started doing this years ago. Is if I get upset about this, I don't allow myself to be. Now I can still be aggravated about it over days, but like truly upset about it, I give myself an hour to be really ticked off about it. And then after
Mhm.
that, I have to let it go. I can address it and continue on the problem later or whatever's aggravating me, but I don't let it eat me up for more than an hour. That's when I shake it off, and I don't allow myself to go past that.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, like I said, it seems like you've got like you're pretty level headed, and you know you kind of got you know your process, and that's and then the thing with that, which is great. Like if you have your process, the number one most important thing, sounds silly, but so many people miss this step, is to communicate that to people,
Absolutely.
because that's where majority of aggravation and stress and drama and that kind of stuff comes along, is because you know what you need and you know what makes you, like you said, I just need an hour. Everyone just kind of chill out, leave me alone, and we'll be fine. But
Sure.
if you don't actually communicate that to somebody, someone who doesn't know that will come along and try to pester you, like, no, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now,
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And it's just going to make it worse. Do you know what I mean? Going back to sort of what we said at the beginning, is you get to define success for yourself, but you also get to define, how people treat you. What's really weird is I can think of at least two at the moment, but not for a while other than that. But I do deal with a lot of people that feel that like the world's out to get them. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
people are out to get me, like no one wishes anything good on me, and like my boss hates me, and my parents are always trying to get me, and my kid never listens to me, or whatever it is, right? But what they don't realize is that they are 100% in control of all of that. They just need to communicate what they want.
I used to be
They
like,
need to just be clear.
yeah, I used to be like that. And I'm not going to mention her name at the night. I hope she listens to it. But there's a young lady that I talk to quite regularly. Is she's like that, and we've had the long conversations. You know,
Yeah.
the things that she does in life. You know, she gets a little pushback from family, and then she thinks that she has problems at work by how people treat her or whatever. And I try to convince her that though there's truth in all that, there's also a thing called perception, and
Mm,
your perception is your reality. You know, if you
mm,
perceive that somebody is trying to get at you, they may be, but there might be a point where people are just ignorant and they may say the wrong things, but it's not their point to hurt you. It's just their ignorance, and you got to let them know in a nice way, like you just said. Look, these are my lines and these are my limits. You know, and this is how I live my life, and this is how I do my thing. And you and I tell her, you're only going to be happy if you want to be happy.
yeah.
And if somebody doesn't agree with what color shoes you got on, that's their problem. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Yeah.
If your shoes aren't scuffing up in their floor,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
who cares what color they are? And
Yeah.
so that's the kind of things and I think that's why you and I are on the same wavelength as when it comes to that stuff. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to talk to you, and because it's easier to talk to people sometimes that you don't have an intimate relationship with, versus, it's very difficult to fall. Sometimes people say you got to talk to your best friend. And I agree with that, or talk to your parents. And I agree with that. But sometimes you can't let it all out. You know what I'm saying? Without feeling that you're going to be judged. And I think somebody like yourself, who they can just let it, just let it fly. And
well, that's the number one thing. Yeah, that's the number one thing with coaching. And I know that there's people listening that goes, I don't need a coach or whatever. I had that mentality myself. I was like, I can just sort out my own problems, or I'll just ask my friends, like you say. But the number one most powerful thing why coaching is so successful, and why I've seen success with all my clients, is just purely because I've got nothing to gain from the advice that I'm giving you. Like, there is no pre-existing relationship. Like, the advice I'm giving you is just purely from my experience and from what I've seen other people do and how I've seen other people find success. That's it. I have nothing to gain. So it's coming from 100% authentic, sort of genuine place. It's not like and again, I'm not saying don't talk to other people around you, but it's not like a friendship could be won or lost, or a family member can think differently of you. Like, a coach is purely an objective sounding board that says, well, I'm listening, this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I think. You know what I mean? And it's not that I've got nothing to gain. All I want for you is more happiness and more success. So we're on a sort of, we're together in this sort of path. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's just important to me that people know that, because a lot of people do go, I don't need a coach, because I'll sort out my own problems, or, I'll just talk to my mom because me and my mom are so close, or whatever. But it's different. Like, a coach, I've helped a lot of people overcome a lot of things. And while your mom or your best friend might be great and they might have great advice, it's not necessarily the same, because
they want to protect you.
They're doing it from a different, they have a plan for you in their mind, whether they like it or not.
Yes. I 100% agree.
And
100%.
it can get really tricky, because also the thing is, if you take their advice and it doesn't work, you now have resentment towards that person, but you now have to live the rest of your life with that person. So it's weird as humans. We trust the people in our nest, but it can get really sketchy, because if you don't take their advice, they're going to hold something against you. And if you do take the advice and it doesn't work out the way that you wanted to, you're going to then hold that against them as well. So whereas with a coach, they can say, well, I know of a client, or I've worked with people that have done this, and it's worked for them. Mm-hmm. It's not to say it will work for you, but it worked for them. In other words, it's a success story.
It's a good strategy.
So what do you think about that? Or, it's not that you have to do it that way, but so what are your thoughts on what they did, or whatever, you know what I mean? Because a lot of the deeper stuff you're struggling with and your bigger challenges should not be stuff that you're going to your, social grouping with, in my opinion. Like, if I have a big problem, I have one really close friend, but she's pretty much like a coach, and I'm like a coach for her. So we just coach each other.
Yeah, that's cool.
But other than that, I wouldn't recommend going to, and I don't mean to step on any toes, but even in marriages, do you know what I mean? If you've got some stuff that you want to deal with, like, you're lucky because you said your wife's like your confidant, but even then there's still some things where it's going to be better for you to take that to a completely external source.
Absolutely. And she does the same. And she and I talk about that. There's certain things that she knows what, a lot of times you already know their opinion, you know what I'm saying? And so you kind of get a dead sounding board, because you know each other so well, you know what they're going to say. You know if they're going to agree with you or disagree with you, and basically you can almost mess up and go to that person looking for the answer that you want versus the answer that you need, and it's.
And if you don't get the answer that you want, then you get upset, and now like I said, you hold it against them, and now you've made another problem for yourself, and so it just gets a bit tricky. It's a really slippery slope. It really is, and coaching is there it's just like a safety net in a way. It's like I want you to try this, and there's a safety net here. So, let's see what happens, kind of thing.
Let me ask you this, and this is strictly opinion, and I won't hold it against you. As I find that it's easier to help others than it is to help yourself. And I think that's the purpose of, and even in the same thing, if they're doing the same thing, it's easier for me to help you accomplish whatever you want to accomplish than it is for me to accomplish the exact same thing for some reason. It's the weirdest thing ever. And that's why I think that people, if they are unhappy, they're sad about whatever, they feel like the world's against them, get a coach, get somebody that they can sound it off of, because sometimes for what I do in my day job, I'll be struggling with something I'll be doing, and somebody will walk in and go, "Why don't you do it that way?" Then you're like, "Son of a bitch," and then it's just right there, but you can't see it because you got the blinders on.
Well, yeah, exactly. And like I say, a coach has got nothing to gain. And here's the thing as well, because what people need to realize, there's two things as well. One, coaching isn't therapy. That's completely different. If you're struggling with some really sort of deep sort of trauma or anything that's holding you back and stuff you haven't let go from the past, that's stuff where you go and see a psychologist or a therapist. Like, that's how that works. What coaching is, it's a completely looking forward scenario. So this is where you're at. Where do you want to get to? And now let's look at how we could possibly get there. So it's very forward thinking. So, initially when I first started, I did have people contact me saying like, I've got a terrible relationship with my parents, for example, or whatever. And it really affects me because now I don't trust people, blah, blah, blah. And I very quickly just put them on to one or two of my friends or colleagues that are therapists that I know, you know what I mean? Because I'm not there to unpack the past. I'm looking at where are we now? Where do we want to get to? And let's do that. And then the second thing is, coaching isn't me telling you what to do, or if you ever do work with a coach, or if anyone listening has worked with a coach, you're not supposed to phone them and say, well, you should do this and you should do that. And well, have you tried this yet? Because if not, then you need to do that. That's not coaching. In coaching, you're going to come up with your own answers. You're going to build your own life. I'm just here as another set of eyes to help you and kind of almost hold your hand in a way and say like, cool, I'm on board with this. This sounds great. Or if there's maybe something that I think might jump out that is not going to work, I bring that up. So it's kind of like, it's really cool because it's like you're looking forward to your own life. I'm just there as like another set of eyes to be like, oh, have you thought about this? Cool. Just letting you know that popped into my mind. You know what I mean? So it's more like a glorified, almost like a cheerleader, or like the trainer in the ring that's in the corner helping the boxer out. The boxer is still boxing and you're still fighting your fight. I'm just the guy with the towels after every round.
You're looking at the different angles. You're just looking at the different angles.
And in between rounds, I'm going to say, look, watch out for this, or, do this a little bit more. Or why do you think that the guy, punched you on the nose 3 times in that round? Like, whatever,
Get your hands up, fool.
Yeah, exactly. And life coaching is like that. Like, well, you don't have your hands up. That's why you keep getting punched.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's important to know that that's what it's actually like about, because a lot of people assume that they're just going to like have a phone call and I'm just going to tell them what to do and it's going to be a miracle cure. And that's completely not the case,
Yeah, you definitely gotta understand what you're getting into.
Yeah, and you're in charge of your life. I'm not in charge of your life. That's how it works, And if I tell you what to do, then I'm now in charge of your life, and that's completely the opposite of what we're trying to achieve,
And it goes back to what we were saying. Close friends and family will try to take charge of your life because they have a plan for you. Like you said, whether they realize it or not. So you have to be careful for that because they can truly send you down a path that you don't want to go down.
Yeah. And you can waste a ton of time, man. I've had so many people that tell me they're like, oh, I've been wanting to do this for years, like and I was there. I get it. I was, unhappy for probably just over a year before I did anything about it. And that's fine. That's normal. If someone's listening to this now and you've been struggling with something for 2, 3, 4 years, like it's time to do something about it, because the cool thing is once you take action and start to see results or get happier, every day after that is a better day, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So it's I know it's tough and it's scary, and asking someone for help or contacting a coach or anything like that, I know it seems a bit strange, but it's the best thing that you could do, because that's the first step. It's like I'm taking action. So the way it works with me and pretty much every coach is with every potential client, I have a 30-minute introductory call, which doesn't cost any money, anything. It's just what we call a discovery call in the industry, but it's basically just to work out where you are, where you're at, and whether coaching is something that will help or not. It's just basically a call to work out if if and how we can work together, kind of thing.
Sure. And I like to add to that and say for anybody listening is look at it as, if you're afraid to talk to anybody else, is you got to realize the anonymity of it. There's nobody that knows what you and Ian are going to talk about but you and
Yeah.
Ian. It's not like
Yeah.
Ian's putting your stuff out on Front Street and
Yeah.
everybody sees it. We're not building billboard signs saying this person is talking to Ian for whatever. This is, nobody has to know that you don't want to know. And
the other thing I'll add on that, and I'm glad you said that, thank you for saying that, because that's exactly how it is. But the other thing as well, which some people find it hard to believe, it is completely a zero judgment space, which doesn't happen often in life. Absolutely. Because especially in social media, you put up anything and people are judging it and analyzing it. When you come to coach with someone, at least with all the coaches I'm friends with and with me, it's like, it's completely zero judgment free. Like, I've heard a lot of stuff. I've studied psychology and coaching. I've done a lot of things. I've heard a lot of things. So it's a safe space is what I mean. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, even if it's a weird thing or a quirky thing or some people they don't want to talk about sexuality necessarily, or they don't want to talk about the fact that they hate their parents, or that they go to work and they just really want to like quit their job and whatever. They're embarrassed that they have worked at that company. You know what I mean? Like, people, we have emotional attachments to this, but it's completely zero judgment free. And that's honestly the best part of my job. I genuinely love that the most, because it's so rare that you can have just a straightforward, purely honest conversation without being judged these days. And I absolutely love that, because to me, there's so many cool, interesting, weird, quirky people in this world. And I love the fact that we are all a bit different, and that we are all, a bit sort of strange in our own way. And that kind of stuff. Like I like that,
Yeah.
So it's important people know that. Like, if you're dealing with something, you're like, no, but I don't really want to, I don't know what they're going to think of me after that call. They're going to think I'm a weirdo, or they're going to think I'm, stupid, or they're going to think I'm dumb because I didn't, quit that job 3 years ago, or, I haven't left my husband and he's abusive, or whatever it is, It's not going to be judged. Like, I don't get off that call and be like, well, that person was weird. Do you know what I mean? I'm just super excited to help that person. I'm like, this is going to be good. Like, we're going to get somewhere,
Absolutely. Well, I like it, man. I like it. And I hope that we'll wrap it up here, but I hope that you come back on. I think that we should do this periodically and see what you got going on, whether you got your book going, whether you got something that new that you're throwing out there, or just catch up and make sure people are hitting you up.
Yeah, I mean, let's just kind of see. I'll put it up to the listeners. I mean, if you keep getting, like, sending your requests to Chris or to me or whatever, but just keep in touch with Chris. Just keep, sending him emails and stuff. But I mean, if you get a consistent theme coming up quite a bit, and you just like decide, hey, this sounds like something that we could discuss more from a coaching perspective, then let's do it, man. And I'll make, always make time, an hour to chat about whatever it is. But if you guys listening think to yourself, like, I am struggling, or I'm a bit, I want them to talk about this, put in your request, just send them to Chris and say, I'd love it if you could, you and the coach could, or whatever, talk about X, Y, Z.
Absolutely.
Within life. I mean, we could talk about anything. If it's sports, or if it's, like great holiday destinations or whatever, like, we could talk about that. But
sure,
if you get a bunch of requests, just hit me up, maybe even once a quarter. We can have like a coach episode and
that'd be great.
A topic around life.
That down.
Or, whatever, like, we'll just do it like once for every season or something, just to make like this is the coach episode or whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm just all about, like I said, positivity. And I had some negative times in my life, and I'm just kind of done with that now. I only want to hang out with people that are willing to be like, my life is, a bit crap right now, but I want to turn it around. Let's flipping do this thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's rock it. Like, that's what I'm all about, is those kind of people that really truly want to make a difference,
Absolutely.
For themselves.
All right, Ian. Well, let me hit this bed music. You hang on, and I'll talk to you for a second after we get off here.
Alrighty.
One more time for everybody, Proudly Positive newsletter. If you go to, lifechangeguide.com or Ian W. Blunt on Twitter, go sign up for the newsletter. Hopefully we talk Ian into doing a podcast for too long. If not, if he doesn't want to do it, we'll just have him on here enough where he doesn't feel like the need to do too many podcasts on his own. We'll take some of the pressure off of him. We'll do a quarterly, this is Coach's Corner or something,
Yeah, we can do it.
Get everybody going. So Ian, again, thank you for coming on. Everybody, please.
You're very welcome.
Everybody, please reach out. And Ian, if you'll just hang on with me just a second, we'll hit this music and then we'll go from there.
Cool.
All right, thanks.